At the time, it was circumstantial. It was one of those like adulting things that we were talking about, where life kind of forces you into certain positions based on where your life is at, what your resources are, what you have access to. So I made the decision to open that business. I knew it was going to be a struggle, but I made the decision to open that business. At the time, I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was motivated by the idea that she would have a place and a business that she could call her own, or to be able to see me running my own business in that space. And I think that that's just the entrepreneurship vibes that I I love to give out to the world.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Kel's Big Little World. For our new listeners over on this channel, I'm Kel, and I interview guests from all around the world to explore their beliefs, careers, and day-to-day life, all to reveal that we are united in something greater, a shared journey through this big little world we call home. Today, we'll be talking to a woman who has made a huge impact on modern education as CEO of a company that reimagines education through gaming. She once said, if ever we needed more positive outlets of expression and creativity, now is definitely the time. Our guest has provided that outlet for youth all around the country. With that being said, let's welcome our upcoming guest, CEO Courtney Baker. Courtney Baker is CEO of CEEM Interactive, which is a company dedicated to the empowerment and education of the upcoming generations. They have produced various games, apps, and workshops that provide a transformative experience to unlock students' full potential. Ms. Baker is responsible for the creation of LevelUP board game, which exposes students to various job opportunities and career journeys in a fun way. She has done impressive work all over the country and in Canada as a musician, business owner, former real estate agent, mother, and CEO. Alrighty, so where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Chicago, actually, is where my family is from. So shout out to Chi-Town.
You went to you got your associates in at the Musicians Institute in Hollywood. So what brought you across the country?
Well, I was raised in California. My whole family is from the south side of Chicago and also Jamaica, Queens, New York. But my parents moved out here in the 80s to California and raised our little family out here. So most of my immediate family still lives out here in California. So I grew up going to school in San Gabriel, California, and I went to private school most of my life. And that launched me into a plethora of things, but I ended up at Musicians Institute after it was all said and done. So,
Were you passionate about music?
I love music. Still to this day, I love music. I'm actually taking this interview from my studio/office. So I still do music. My daughter plays piano. My degree was in the keyboard information technology platform that Musicians Institute offers. So you have to know how to play the keys. You have to know how to make your own album. You have to know how to mix your music and master your sound. It's a whole lot that you have to do to graduate from there. So music is very important.
So once you were moving from Hollywood to Arizona, why did you choose the University of Arizona to pursue your bachelor's?
Well, University of Phoenix is actually a mainly online platform. So I didn't actually move to Arizona to pursue my education endeavors. I stayed in California and I utilized their online platform to go through their educational process for my communications degree.
So going into college, what career did you want to pursue at that point?
I was actually undecided. When I first started college, I went to a bunch of different community colleges. And I said, you know what, I'm going to rack up these credentials and get all of these certifications that I need, like the little classes that everyone has to take, all of the general ed courses. I said, I'm going to get these out of the way at a regular school where they're not going to make me declare a major. And then I'm going to move that into whatever I might be interested in my 20s. And when I was in my 20s, I discovered that I was passionate about administration and about communication. And that's what led me to go that path with University of Phoenix. So at that time, I was actually working as a accounting specialist. So I was working as an accounting specialist. I already had my Musicians Institute degree. And I utilized my Musicians Institute degree to get an accounting job. So I was working. It's career pathways are very squiggly nowadays. You don't necessarily get into one thing and like stay in that field. You might take something that you learned and take some of those transferable skills and take them to a whole different avenue or a whole different industry. So that's what I did. I graduated with my music degree and I went to work in accounting as an accounts payable, accounts receivable specialist. So
once you got your bachelor's degree, what work did you do afterwards?
after I got my bachelor's degree, that at that point I was working still in accounting. But then that was when I made my transition out of accounting and into a more music business space. My minor at Musicians Institute was in music business. So I was excited to get into the administrative side of those things. I worked as an intern for an executive at Warner Brothers. I broke into my sponsorship and contract management roles. And I started working for a Universal Music Group. They have a subsidiary called Bungalow Records. But I started working for them. And that's what kind of drove me to get into that space. And all of this was happening at once. So I'm going to school, I'm working different jobs, I'm an intern here, maybe I'm an associate there, just collecting all of those experiences at once. Because when you're young, that's the time to do that.
What were some of the hardships kind of transitioning from, college life into real adulting?
Adulting is a huge smack in the face. And back when I was growing up, we didn't have social media. We didn't have a lot of these technological advancements that expose you to a lot of things earlier. So it was the shock, I guess, the shock that comes with being an adult, having to pay bills, making decisions and choices about your education and what pathway you're going to pursue next based on what resources you have access to in your adulting life. That made a huge impact on how I was making decisions. I actually didn't want to be in accounting. I took the job because, someone, a friend, a cousin was working in the department and said, hey, I need people. And I was like, hey, I'll come over there. And then, the money gets good. You get to pay that car note on time. And you're like, you know what? I'm gonna keep doing this. And it might take you away from your passion sometimes. And that's kind of what happened with me. That's kind of what happened with me. So
And so you own a business called Island Essentials. What does that company do?
So Island Essentials, I started that company in 2016. There's a place out here in California, it's called Catalina Island, and it's literally an island. It's off the coast of Long Beach. You have to take a ferry boat to get there. But essentially, I moved there in 2016 while I was pregnant with my daughter, and I opened a retail store. So I was the first Black business owner in the history of Catalina Island. And that was a very stressful but eye-opening and fun endeavor that gave me a lot of my business acumen and entrepreneurship vibes that I thrive off of now.
How did you get away from being one of the first Black women in that space? How did you stay away from feeling isolated or lonely?
I didn't. It was a very lonely experience. And being a Black woman in any corporate space or being an entrepreneur, there is a lot of self-validation that I had to learn for myself to be able to have a foundation of confidence that you can operate under, because a lot of business, corporate, it is designed to break anyone down, not just Black women. It's designed to break anyone down. It can be very trying, it can be very stressful, learning how to operate and navigate a lot of those industries and a lot of those different things that you need to learn. But in being lonely, living literally on an island, you know? And also it's an island where, there's no fast food. You know what I mean? I was pregnant at the time. I would have loved to get some Taco Bell if that was available to me. So all of those things played a factor into how I felt personally, emotionally. But when you're running a business, yes, you have to pay attention to the business and you have to take care of all of those things and check those boxes. You do have to take care of yourself and your mental health as well. So I learned a lot about that through that experience with Island Essentials.
What are some of the leadership skills that you were kind of forced into getting or acquiring?
In that particular role?
Mhm.
Well, well, that was one of my first times managing employees.
Mhm.
And I had some unruly employees also, because it's an island, so you can get the ragamuffins and all of that. So managing employees and staff, keeping up with legal and compliance paperwork, all of those things were really poured into my leadership cup in that experience, and having to make sure I delineated tasks, to make sure that, external vendors were communicated with. All of those things were really, really important in running a successful, organization, making sure we're timely, customer service. I think a huge part of that role that led me to generate more leadership skills was training my employees. So we had a lot, seems like a long time ago now, it was almost 10 years, but we had a lot of interesting situations that took place. Some were good, some were bad, but even the bad ones were learning experiences.
So knowing that you would have to, acquire all these leadership skills, why did you start the business in the first place?
At the time, it was circumstantial. It was one of those like adulting things that we were talking about, where life kind of forces you into certain positions based on where your life is at, what your resources are, what you have access to. So I made the decision to open that business. I knew it was going to be a struggle, but I made the decision to open that business. At the time, I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was motivated by the idea that she would have a place and a business that she could call her own, or to be able to see me running my own business in that space. And I think that that's just the entrepreneurship vibes that I I love to give out to the world.
So the transition from entrepreneurship into real estate, what did that transition look like?
Well, had my daughter, had my daughter at the end of 2016. And I discovered that living on Catalina Island, it is an island. And I got deported actually, because you're not allowed to have babies there. I know, it's weird. It's weird, but you're not allowed to have babies on Catalina Island because I believe there was some type of circumstance where someone who was previously living there wasn't able to get off the island in time. The mother and the child were put in danger, etc. So they made a decree from that day forward. If you're 8 months pregnant and some change, the sheriff will come to you like they did to me when I was in my store. And he said, "Hey, would you like me to escort you to the boat, or are you going to go yourself?" So I got deported. They made me leave. I couldn't come back because my baby was a newborn at the time. And my business ended up going under while I was gone because I left it in the hands of employees that weren't up to the task. So after my business went under, I ended up getting an opportunity to go to real estate school through the settlement with my business. So, when you have people embezzling and doing stuff, you got it. So unfortunately, my business on the island closed because an employee was embezzling from me. And from that, I got a property insurance check. So I utilized that to start a new business and to get my real estate license and start over.
So was that passion for real estate always there, or is it just, the next step that you were kind of saying, like circumstantial?
It was circumstantial again. What happened was I had my daughter and I got this huge sum of money, and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy some property. And then when I started researching about what it would take for me to buy a house, that's when I was like, why don't more brown skinned people like me know more about this industry and know more about what it would take for us to become first time home buyers. And that really just motivated me from the space that I was in as a first time home buyer. I said, you know what, I wish that more people had access to this information. And I was like, how can I put together workshops or something for people to get this information? I started talking to my real estate friends and affiliates, and they were like, you know, you can get a real estate. It sounds like you're passionate about it. You should look into getting your real estate license. So circumstantially, life drove me into my next thing, and I became very passionate about real estate from the standpoint of wanting my community to be aware of what they can do to break into the property ownership space.
What were your responsibilities in this position?
As a real estate agent, you have a lot of responsibilities because you work for yourself. Now, your license is hung at a brokerage, so you have a broker who can sign off on deals for you, et cetera. But you have to show properties, you have to do paperwork, you have to work with other agents because you can be on the buyer side, you can be on the owner side. You have to have great customer service skills. You have to have great marketing and sales skills. You have to understand and know what your client wants or is looking for. And you have to have great negotiation skills as well. So I had to learn a lot of those skills newly for myself, as well as just brush up on some stuff that I already knew before.
So with working for yourself and raising a daughter, how did you balance the two?
I'm still trying to figure it out. It is a daily, I won't say a struggle, but it is a daily balancing act. Because, and I'm a single parent also, my daughter's father is nowhere to be seen. So that's really awesome because I get to flex some of the skills that I've generated through my different experiences in different careers and different work.
So how did this real estate career lead to you being the CEO of CEEM Interactive?
My real estate career really didn't lead to my becoming a CEO. What led to me becoming a CEO is at the same time that I was practicing my real estate company, I was also reviving my marketing consulting firm. When there was a technological shift in, we have all these social media, we have AI and different things that are popping up throughout the years. So I started a marketing consulting firm to help businesses that were more owned by, like baby boomers and people who don't really want to, like, we're begrudgingly going with you guys to this internet world, but they needed to transition. They need social media, they need websites, et cetera. So I started a marketing consulting firm to do that type of work, and to also take my sponsorship information that I had learned working for Universal and utilize that to help different companies from an independent contractor's perspective. Through that opportunity, I was hired by CEEM, which is the Cooperative Economic Empowerment Movement. And they hired me to help them do marketing consulting and administrative consulting for a huge event that they do out here every year at the LA County Fair. It's called Black Excellence Weekend. So they hired me to do that and project manage a few of their different projects, one of them being LevelUP, a game of success, which is the board game that we now sell. So because I was the project manager for that project, when it shifted into becoming its own company, they offered me the position of CEO because I was heading up the project.
Now, how do you play LevelUP, the board game?
LevelUP is very fun. LevelUP is about career pathways, financial literacy, social emotional wellness, all types of things. But the main idea is that everyone starts off with a career card, and you have to go from entry level to boss status. The first person to level up from entry level to associates to director level and boss status on their career card wins the game.
How do you think that your life would have been impacted if you would have had access to a game or even a resource like this?
I think that I would have been in a more exposed space to make decisions about my career. Because a lot of what we're doing now and a lot of what our game is about career exploration. And we created this game as a company because we wanted more people to be exposed to, upward mobility in any type of career track. We wanted them to be exposed to opportunities that exist in our current job market. Because a lot of what our people, see is that we don't see people that look like us in a lot of different professional spaces. And it's great because representation matters. We want to be able to expose people not only to this is a possibility of an opportunity or a skill or a career that might be interesting to you, but also here's someone who looks like you who's successful in this space, and that shows you that you can do it too.
So with owning a company like this, it must be a lot of pushback on just certain things going on operational wise or ownership wise. What are some of those experiences that you've had?
Well, I had to delay this call because I was on the phone with my tax person. So some of the things that I've struggled with, not just pushback from my parent company and from my higher ups, because everyone answers to someone. I'm a CEO, but everybody answers to somebody. Okay. But part of the struggle there is that, sometimes it can feel like there's too many cooks in the kitchen. It can feel like, we're all collectively trying to make these decisions. Who is it up to execute? Who is it up to decide our strategic plan? A lot of these conversations are necessary. And I've discovered being a CEO and also just being a student of life and a student of the game. And, I'm here to learn always. It has exposed me to so much in terms of corporate structure and just how to operate a business in our American enterprise system. Because there's so many boxes that need to be checked so that you make sure you don't get sued, so that you make sure everyone's happy on your board, to make sure that your staff is happy and fulfilled and that they're being incentivized properly. All of these things are things that you have to think about. I've gotten some pushback when it comes to staff operating and executing things a certain way, which is great. And it's healthy too, because when you have an amazing team that works with you or under you, it's great to have more information about how you can do things properly. So I've had executive assistants tell me like, no, we shouldn't do it that way. And we found out that they were correct. So just because I'm the CEO doesn't mean I don't need to listen to others. So pushback is good. But we've gotten a lot of different like corporate pushback. Being a Black woman in the toy creation space, like we make up like less than 1%. So, it's great to be able to be a face in that space that says, hey, we're here and we're here to stay.
So being a CEO, do you ever feel like there's a political aspect in it where the decision is much bigger than you thought it would be?
Yes. I have discovered that through a couple of different interactions with the company in and of itself. It can be surprising, but it's good for you to just be exposed to more information. And that's how it trickled down to me. I was a little bit surprised. I was a little bit surprised, but I've been happy with my experience in this role because it's been teaching me things like that,
So being a minority, not just a woman, but a person of color, how do you connect with other people who are on your level?
I love connecting with Black women. I love it. I love that about the opportunity to be a CEO and to be a boss and to be a boss mom and CEO mom. It's amazing to be able to connect with other women who are in that space, because it's motivating. It's motivating for me where I am with it. And it's motivating again to see, just like we're doing with LevelUP board game, to see people who look like you, who are successful doing what it is you want to do. And I want to be a successful CEO. So I utilize LinkedIn I utilize conferences and different engaging in-person touch points. And I seek out my sisterhood. And I feel like our energy attracts our tribe also. And so I try to let my bubbly, hopefully infectious in a good way energy, I try to let that speak for me as to why we should connect, why we should support each other. And when I see myself or I see another Black woman, I see myself, you know? So that's a really great way to connect. And it's just nice to be able to say, hey, I'm a boss, you're a boss. I see you. I see you, and I see you seeing me too, girl.
Now, in the next 5-10 years, where do you imagine yourself with LevelUP or even separate from?
I can't wait for the next 5 years. I would love to take LevelUP into a digital space. LevelUP started off as an idea for a physical board game, but of course, our whole world is driven by technology and AI is taking over. And we would love to definitely continue our plans, which was our original plan was to take it into a digital space already. We want to utilize this platform not only to connect with students and with people who we want to play LevelUP and be inspired by or exposed to different career pathways, but we also want to utilize it to partner with organizations who are in these spaces so we can keep telling these stories of a successful person in hospitality, in entrepreneurship, in health sciences and medical technology, because it's our stories and our narratives that are the inspirational point for all of us to either keep going or to get into the fight. So I see our company as being successful, but more in a digital space, doing those same missions and having those same initiatives around gaming and art that are to helping people to unlock their own full potential.
What advice would you give to a young woman or just a young person in general trying to get to your position?
Keep going. And remember that you are it. You are it. I know they always say, you can do anything. And I believe the children are our future. All of that is 100%. It's 100%. You guys are the future. And especially high school students, college students, you guys are taking us into the next wave of who we are going to be as a people and as a community. So just keep going and remember that you have everything you need. You are enough.
Now, one of the last questions I have for you is a question I ask every one of my guests. When did you realize that the world was smaller than you thought?
That's a deep question. That is a deep question. When I got to college, because everything feels so vast when you're living at home with your parents and the world just feels like out there, and then we're just in here. And once I got to college, my eyes were opened not only to the culture shock of different types of people and all of that, but also to my own placement in this huge universe of sorts, where feeling like you're just one little tiny little dot. But then seeing that you can shine and make a huger impact than being that little tiny little dot.
CEO Baker is the definition of rolling with the punches. She has been successful in every industry around the country, from music to business, real estate, and more, despite setbacks such as deportation and parenting. She has dedicated the rest of her life to giving back to students who look like her. I just want to say that Black woman can do it all, and she is living proof. Thank you guys so much for listening, and again, a special thank you to our guest. See you next week. Bye.